Welcome to another edition of the Sim Racing Garage. I'm Barry Rowland. In this episode, we'll be reviewing the Pro Pedal GT from the guys at Simtrecs. A great looking set of pedals that have had a lot of thought put into them as to their design and functionality. Attention to detail is everywhere you look. Of course, I put them through the usual rigorous SRG pedal testing process to see how well they perform. So, let's get to it. As you guys probably know, here at the SRG, I typically do not do unboxing videos on the products that I get because there's really not much going on inside most of the time, just some cardboard and styrofoam, things like that flying around. But when I got the Simtrecs pedals, and first time I opened it, I thought, wow, these guys were really going for top tier presentation, if nothing else. And the box itself looks very good, as you can see. It's well done. As far as the graphics on it, it almost looks like you're getting some kind of a Xbox or something. That's how well the graphics are done on this. And they've really paid a lot of attention to detail in the presentation. And when you open the box, you have this top layer here, and it has this manual, instruction manual. And this has got to be the best instruction manual I've ever seen. It's well thought out. It's got great graphics in it as far as what you do with the pedals. It shows you with the pedals as you're taking them out of the box. It's got everything is just so well thought out here, and as far as the instructions on what to do with your pedals, it's almost, I feel like I don't even have to do how to adjust your pedals. It even talks about the software here in the manual. And yeah, different curves that we can put on the brake pedals, on all the pedals actually. And then it gets into the pedals themselves, and it even goes to the extent of showing you different degrees per settings on the holes. I mean, that's the information you usually, well, I don't know, don't care about. You just want to get the pedal at the right angle that you want to use it. So again, very detailed on everything they're talking about here as far as the brake pedals goes. I mean, I've just never seen a manual like this. Look at all the different settings they have listed here for the firmness of your brake pedal. And they go into detail explaining exactly what goes where. It just keeps going. Again, a very comprehensive manual as far as doing things. It even shows you how to disassemble the brake pedal step by step with fantastic graphics. This thing is beautiful. It's almost like a book. So put that aside. You also get some stickers, right? Some decals, so you can stick those on your rig or wherever you want to put them. It actually looks like we have some decals for a clutch. See that little decal right there? It's got like a dial on it. Little circular dial. Actually, it's gone. I thought it was there, but it's gone. So it must be on the brake pedals already. We have one over here too, but that one's also gone. So that's what that means. But this is still here. It says clutch USB 1 brake. Anyway, got some decals. Now, this is the top part. And it's got these little satin ribbon pieces that you pull up the top part with. And I'll pull this up to show you what's in here and how it's laid out. They've really kind of gone over the top here with the presentations of the parts that you get. We have a 1/4 inch ratchet type of tool here. And of course we have different sockets here to use on our brake pedals. Above that we have our USB cable. And if you notice on this USB cable, we've got like a stereo plug that goes into their controller board. And we'll talk all about that when we get there. We also have not just these silver chrome plated wrenches that you normally get in hardware, in brake sets or pedal sets rather. You've got a real Bondas set of Allen wrenches here to work on your pedals with. We have a cup of grease. Supposedly I would think that this is going to be the grease that they prefer you to use when you maintain your pedals. We have another connector here, and that's for one of the pedals connecting to the main controller. And we also have this. And this is a ground wire. Other manufacturers have put ground wires in their pedal sets because of EMI, RFI interference. But yeah, they go the extra distance. And this is the first time I've seen a finished one like this. It's already have the connectors on it. And they go, if you go to their website, they explain to you how you should connect this if you have some problems with your EMI interference as far as your load cell is concerned. On the controller for your load cell, the amplifier for that, sometimes they can get a little crazy from EMI interference. So again, something different, something well laid out here. Let's go ahead and put this back in here. And then once you're done with this, the main pedal section is revealed. And here we have the main pedals. And these are the, looks like we have, yeah, these are the bumpers in here. We have some more bumpers over here. This is like plastic washers, different sizes. And we're going to go, obviously, over this in detail later on. And the pedals have their own pre-cut pieces in here. Let me take out the throttle pedal just to show you. Again, all this is like, not styrofoam, it's like a nice firm foam. They expect their pedals to last the journey for sure. And of course, we've got some screws over here, but we'll look at that as we get to the points where we need them. And just a quick look at the throttle pedal here. I believe this is the throttle. Yeah, that's throttle. And yeah, everything is just so nice and clean and nicely done here that I'm not used to this kind of presentations. But I thought you guys would be interested in seeing that as far as an unboxing goes. So when we come back, we'll just go ahead and get to our closer look segment. Let's take a closer look at these pedals. I'll start with the throttle pedal. They stand kind of high, and the throttle pedal is actually the lowest one of them all. It comes in at 260 millimeters tall, or about 10¼ inches, so relatively tall. Obviously, this is all aluminum construction here. Each one of these side plates, by the way they construct these pedals, they're all different. Most pedal sets you see, or I have seen that come through the SRG, all the pedal, like their base side plates, will all be the same. And that's for economy of manufacture, obviously. But each one of these pedals, all the parts are different, except for this part. This is the angle adjustment. And out of the box, they have a pretty straight up, as you can see, pretty straight up and down angle to them. You see the brakes the same way, which is kind of the way I prefer to have them. Nice aluminum finish. You can see the machining done here is very, very good. I can't find any defects anywhere. Just well done all throughout this set. Now the throttle is a little different than the others. You can adjust the pedal pads or the pedal faces on those, but this one is all one piece. This whole piece here is part of the lever. So all the way down to where the actual pivot point is. It's all one piece, non-adjustable, but there's so much surface area here, I really don't think you're going to have to worry about adjusting it up or down. You certainly won't be able to adjust it sideways unless you have it on profile type of mount. And we're going to talk about the pedal tray that you can order with these once we get to that segment. Really nice looking pedal here. I think it's very clean. It has a damper shock coilover deal going on here. It reminds me of the 8th scale trucks that you race. And it feels very good. The dampening in it is very, very smooth, very quiet. Yeah, I like when I feel it, except when you hit the back. You can see the back is a hard stop. This is a potentiometer-based throttle pedal. Now, when it comes to throttle pedals and clutches pedals, I really don't mind the potentiometer bit because it's just a position sensor, really. And that's all we really need is for a throttle, because we're either pushing it down or we're letting it go, right? And feathering it with our feet as we're coming out of a turn, maybe. But a good resistor should do just as well a job as a load cell. In fact, I kind of, see these pedal sets with load cells all the way across them. While it's effective and it works fine, this works just as well when it comes to those type of pedals as far as how we use them. These pedals are sporting not just regular potentiometers. They are Vichy potentiometers. And if you guys have never heard of Vichy, they're usually used in high-end electronics. In fact, I have some high-end audio gear for listening to music that I ordered the upgrade of some Vichy resistors, which were an upgrade as far as the electronics part of the package, but very high quality as far as that goes. I have no qualms about them using those at all. In fact, I think it's a very good choice. All the wiring is done very well. These resistors have 3 pins coming out of them like that. Better look at it there. And they have these servo type of plugs going on them. Very neatly done. Again, everything on these pedals is very nicely done. Very professional look to them. Even the lever that mounts to the shaft on this Vichy resistor is a custom machined bit that is also the same color as the shock So I think they might be making the shocks too, or at least ordering the shocks and then making these and get them anodized the same way. And I'll show you a closer look at that. Very well done. Yeah, everything. I can't find anything really to complain about here. Now, one thing, it's got an adjustment here for the throttle. I suppose this is probably the brake sensitivity, I would imagine, because, and again, let me see if we have one over here. Nope, so it isn't here. And the reason I say that is the electronics for this set is incorporated in this aluminum housing. It's got 4 screws in here. I imagine that's what's holding the board underneath here. Here's where we can adjust the brake as far as how heavy it is all the way up. It's a 200 kilogram load cell in the brake pedal over there, but you can adjust the sensitivity. You can actually, according to the instructions, go all the way down to 40 kilograms up to 100 kilograms. And even though we have a 200 kilogram load cell, remember the geometry of how the load cell is mounted and how we're pushing on it and all that stuff matters as far as how much we're really going to force we can really put on it. Yeah, very nicely done. And I want to take a moment to discuss how they've embedded this electronics board. And you can see we have the pedal pieces in there as far as what goes where so you don't get it mixed up. So we have clutch, brake, and USB. Or clutch, brake, and yeah, this goes to USB, so the throttle is done internally, and that's why we see the clip there, right? So this is internal. It goes directly to the board. So again, back to the embedding their electronic circuit board with the load cell amplifier circuitry and things like that in it inside a metal housing. This is, and this really is one of my pet peeves with, especially with the high-end pedal manufacturers, that they just leave their electronics board sitting in a plastic housing at best. And most of the time you can find the boards are just kind of sitting out with a piece of clear plexiglass over it, which doesn't defend it at all against EMI and RFI interference. This RFI, of course, is the result of the EMI. So here we have it embedded in the metal housing here. And this is just one of those things. Now, you guys might think, well, gee, what's the big deal, Barry? But if you've ever had EMI interference with your load cell circuit, the amplifier circuit, where you go to the brake pedal and you open up DI view and you see the brake pedal doing this, shaking, the little indicator going, jumping all around. That's because of the EMI from the motors you're running in your motion system or even the direct drive wheelbase causing the interference. So this is going to help mitigate it. At least they're taking the step to do that when a lot of manufacturers aren't even bothering, right? Now, I'm not saying this will mitigate all of any potential interference. There still could be interference with stuff just from the wires hanging off of them. But it certainly is a good and proper way to build a set of pedals with the kind of electronic circuitry that's in this set of pedals. All right, enough about that. And yeah, I'm not going to go to the adjustments. We'll do the adjustments later on. We'll take a look at the clutch pedal next. And this is kind of interesting. On the bench, I'm pushing it, and I feel a lot of resistance, but I don't think I need this thing attached to something. I just can't get enough because it's pretty stiff. And I can't really get the purchase I need to feel the full stroke and see how it feels as far as pushing through a pressure plate or what have you. But you can see that the front pad on here is adjustable. We have some adjustment holes there. We have some more that are actually machined into the lever arm. You can kind of see the hole right in there. And speaking of the lever arms, this is very nicely done. Look at the machining there with the holes that go through there. I mean, everything kind of flows here. I don't know about you guys, but this is just a well thought out set of pedals. They look really, really good. And it, again, different plates for the clutch versus the throttle. And of course the brake will be different also. So not a cookie cutter type of deal. We have this little beam here, and you can see they actually machined it out. A lot of machining touches all over, of course, in the plates themselves, and of course in the lever. So again, they put a lot of work into these pedals to make them what they are as far as looks. Now we have a damper here, right? But we also have a damper under there. So we have like a double damper. And of course, this is a spring. Again, it kind of looks like what we had on the throttle over here, but it's a little different because this top part looks more like the throttle without the spring on it. And this one down here has a smaller hydraulic sleeve in it. I don't know how well it's going to show up with the spring in the way. But yeah, it's spins, or rather turns, on this pivot point here. Kind of a linked pivot point. Very race car-like, by the way. So this is what the action we use to push on it. And as I'm doing that, and you can't see it, but it's obviously pushing on the spring here, and that's where we're getting our resistance. Everything from the bottom even, just well thought out, well displayed. Everything is just, yeah. I can't find many faults with this. And it's using real sealed bearings here on the pivot point. I don't know if you can see those bearings, but there they are. Everything is just high quality, heavy duty build. And it has a good feel to it on the bench. As I always say, you really don't know until you get it underfoot. You get it mounted to something solid and you're pressing on it. But I can't really get the range I want. I'm not trying to figure out how this works. It's just too much pressure. But maybe when I get these things mounted to their base plate, it'll be different. Yeah, I can't find any flaws anywhere on this stuff. Very well done. Now, the brake pedal itself, kind of unique. It has, well, not because it has load cell, but it does. The load cell's on the bottom. You can see half of it sticking out over here. And it has its own wire, obviously, that's going to go over to our throttle to plug in where the brake is supposed to go. The pivot point back here, you know, I don't know how well I'm going to, yeah, I didn't think so. I'm not going to be able to move that much. But all these pivot points here, you can see again, they're using sealed bearings. Not just shielded, but sealed. Nice. And this is a pivot point with a, you can't really see the bearing in there, but if you look closely, you can see the shield part where it splits down there on the bottom part. I don't know how my light's showing that. Hard to see in this little video camera monitor. Seal bearings here, here, and I'm not sure what's going on there, but I'm pretty sure there's probably seal bearings in here, but as you know, I'll probably end up pulling one of these off just to check it out. But there's a lot of adjustments on this as far as the brake pedal itself. Of course, we have the usual bumper adjustments, and we'll get into adjustments in more detail. We also have a take-up adjustment, I call it, for the first bit of travel. Like in a real hydraulic pedal in our cars, or even in a race car, there's usually a little bit of take-up before we're pressing against the hydraulic part of the system and applying the pads against our rotor surfaces. So that's adjustable, or I believe you can just pull this all the way out if you don't like it. There's a ton of adjustments in this thing. And you'll notice there's also a damper in here. And see that damper? Watch when I let go of this. See how smooth that moves back to its position? And that's the damper in here. The spring is pushing it, but the damper is giving it that smooth feel. And I can actually feel that. I've had a pedal in here before. The Ultimates was a good example of that, that had a damper in it, but it's such a hard pedal to push anyway, that I never could really tell the effect of that. In fact, I took it out, and I really couldn't tell the difference because it was such a hard pedal to push to begin with. This one you can definitely feel on the take-up part when it lets go. Very, very smooth right in that position with that dampening in it. And on the side, we'll get to the adjustments in more detail later, but you can see the side we have a way to, this is a screw here, and we can adjust how this damper feels, less or more. We're restricting the fluid's movements, or we're letting it flow easier. So it depends on how you want to adjust this. And it even has a little lock nut that we can turn down here that you can tighten that up so it won't move on you. Very nice. And I believe, yeah, we've got a little hydraulic tube here. So there's two chambers in here apparently. So we have a tube here. So you press it, it goes up this one and into the back one. And yeah, nothing on the bottom to see, except this is, imagine this is two solid plates here. See this here? How that goes in there? It looks like it's just two big solid pieces. And I'm not sure what these bolts down here are holding in there, but it probably has to do with the load cell, I would imagine. And the load cell doesn't have any branding on it, so I can't tell you anything about that. But yeah, very nicely done. Gosh, these pedals just really give a great presentation. It's like the box. If you saw the unboxing part, everything is just presented so well. Speaking of which, we'll go ahead and take a closer look at some of this stuff that comes with it. Now, you already saw all the tools and everything, and this is kind of a T-ratchet, I'll call it, or a T-bar, breaker bar maybe, and it lets this piece here, the little 1/4 inch square piece for the sockets, slide up and down, so you can use it like this, or you can spin it like that, or go to the other end if you need that end, what have you. And of course, this will spin around the rod itself, so you can get any angle, just about any angle you want. Very common tool in a toolbox. Almost every mechanic will have something like this in there, getting the tight spaces. And we also have these sockets. We have 5.5 millimeter. So these sockets will relate to whatever we can do on the pedals as far as what we need. And as you can see, they're very nicely put in here. The bondness. But yeah, a real set of Bondhaus wrenches in here. You can keep these in your toolbox for a long time and use them for anything. We have a USB cable here. Go ahead and pull this out. Seems to be very long. Yes, I would say this is... Yeah, my bench is 6 foot. So I would say probably more like 7 feet, at least 2 meters as far as this goes. And you can see that it has a triple banded plug here that will go in the back of our throttle pedal. Where's it at? There it is, yeah. And that would go in right there where it says brake, right? Or no, I'm sorry. That's not where it would go. It would go over here in the USB slot. The brake would go in the brake. I kept thinking I had the brake in my hand for some reason. Very nice cable. It's thin, but it has a very good high quality feel to it. Of course, we have the USB-A connection on the other side. We have another connector. And this, by the way, would be, let's see, we have the throttle over here. We have the brake that needs a connector. And we have, yeah, the brake has its own connector. I'm going to say, I knew one of them needed this. So the clutch, it's fichet resistor in there. Again, the pins are exposed, but we'll be putting this on. And this is a nice little termination there. It says OK on it. And it has, again, the same type of pin on the end of it with 3 bands on it. So this will just slip on there, then plug into the throttle. And yeah, the brake would plug into the brake throttle or the brake position on the throttle. Anything I want to show you here? Yeah, the ground wire, hopefully I won't need this. So, and they show you how to attach this ground wire also if you have some problems with grounding. Of course, there's other ways to do it too. And we'll go ahead and pull this little grease thing out of here. Hope the top doesn't come off. So this is the grease that they want you to use. Smells like a synthetic grease. Definitely not petroleum based. More like almost something like hospitals type stuff. Oh, it just has that smell to it. So the cap is a screw-on cap. So it's a screw-on cap. So it's very secure. It won't come out. Let's take a look at the rest of what comes in this. Well, I can pull this whole thing out. There we go. Get these silicone things out. And there again, in the where we put the pedals, and a very nice foam here, by the way, kind of a rubbery feeling stuff, not really like foam. We have another spring here, and I would imagine this is for the, I wouldn't think that's for, it might be for the throttle. We'll have to see in the directions what it says. We have some spacers here, a whole bunch of these. These are some hard plastic spacers, and they're going to go into the stack of our bumpers. And here's all of our bumpers here. We have a lot of them, it looks like, for one brake pedal. And we also get these socket head cap units for attaching the pedals to their base plate, I would imagine. And yeah, anything else I didn't cover? Yeah, we covered about everything. We got the manual, showed you that. We got some stickers here. That's what comes in the box as far as what we're going to be using when we're setting up this pedal set. So what I'm going to do next is we'll go over each individual pedals adjustments. Now let's go over the throttle pedal adjustment. Pretty simple here as far as the adjustments. We have really two as far as the feel of this pedal goes. That's going to be the preload adjuster back here. It will compress the spring and give us a preload feel as far as when we're pushing on it, how hard it is to push. But that's more of a, I've always thought of the preloads as a more of a fine-tuning part of the adjustment on how you want your pedal to feel. The main one's going to be up here in the lever itself. And that's this screw here. And you can see there's a slot in there. So the higher the slot, the harder it is to press. The lower the slot, the easier it is to press. Because by lowering it, we're increasing the lever principle here as far as the point of the lever that we're using on this piston So the higher we go, it shortens that lever, so it makes it harder. So I'm going to go ahead and first take that loose, and that is a 2.5 socket head cap in there. And on the other side, we have a little nylock nut, and that is a 5.5 millimeter. Now I could use the Bondas or Bontas, whatever you want to call that, but I'm going to use mine because they're a little bit easier to use. But I will be using their ratchet system. Well, it's not really a ratchet, it's a breaker bar kind of deal. And they have the 5.5 millimeter socket, just so we can adjust that. We also have a couple other sockets, as you may have seen, and the sizes, I never told you that. We have a 6 mil, we have a 10 mil, and then we have a 13 mil, and that's for working on all the pedals, depending on which one we're working on. But in this case, all we're going to need is the 5.5. Well, you guys can see that, but I'll try to get it to show. Kind of small. So we'll pop that on our little breaker bar deal, like that. And then I'll take my 2.5 Wera wrench and just go over here and see if we can get this loose. I'm going to turn it this way. I'll turn it backwards so you guys can see. Shouldn't be too hard to get off, but it is a nylock nut on there, so sometimes they can be a bit stiff. So let me just kind of turn it separate ways here. It looks like that worked. And because it's nylock, it's going to stay stiff until we get past the nylock part of the nut itself. So I can kind of do it this way, I guess. There we go. Kind of help spin it around a couple more times. And you don't have to get it all the way off, obviously. I want to make it loose so it will go up and down. Let's see if I can get it to go. There we go. Up and down like that. So if I put it at that position, and I'm going to kind of support it here as I push it, you definitely notice more difficulty in pushing it. And if I push it all the way down, it's like, yeah, not hard to push at all. But and you can really feel that dampening effect when you have it that light. I'm probably going to leave it in the middle. I was kind of happy with it felt in the middle, so I'm just going to leave it there. But again, a very easy thing to adjust. And of course, we're just going to adjust it the other way and start tightening it back up. Oops. And you got to watch it too. It looks like it wants to slide down, which is typical of this stuff when we're spinning it. So you're going to kind of keep a little pressure. But once it gets to a certain point, it will be tight enough that it won't move on us. But I probably loosened that too much, but I wanted to make sure that it moved very easily. It started moving a little there. Now we're getting tighter. I can start zero in on where I want it. And I think that's probably right about where I want it there. A lot of this is subjective, number one. Number two, this may change as we get these pedals actually mounted solidly to the rig and start stomping on them. Then we'll be able to tell. So there we go. I'm going to leave it there. And the preload, again, is something that I'm just going to have to wait and see. Now, there's another adjustment here. It's for the pedal stop. It's how far that pedal will travel. And right now, it's all the way open. So I can get, this is the distance that it will travel. This is pretty far. And I should be able to modulate that pretty well. Looks like my flanges are coming loose. So before I do that, I'm going to do the flange one because it's already starting to come loose. And that, what I mean by the flanges is the mounts here. We can change the angle. And to do that, we have to loosen up these bolts. We've got some socket head caps on each side, on the front, and of course on the back. For that, we will need a 5 millimeter wrench. Now again, you do get one in your kit, but I'll be using this one. Each individual bolt, we don't have to worry about trying to hold another one on either side, like on some pedal systems. You have to, it's got like a spacer in between it, and when you turn it, they both turn at the same time. It's not on this. This housing here on all these pedals are tapped and drilled in the aluminum side plates for each individual. So we just take these loose like that. And you can see it's already going to start flopping around on me. I'm just going to loosen them up a bit and make sure I get the fronts loose. The reason we're going to loosen the front ones is as we change the angle of the pedal up and down, you can see this rocks forward. We don't want it to do that. We want it to lay flat and get the angle we want. Although I do like the angle that they're at now, I'm going to put just a little bit of a laid back angle on these things. Now all you got to do is break these loose on the front. So now, as you can see, if I hold my finger there, it doesn't go anywhere. It stays flat. That's what we want. But on the back ones, I'm going to go ahead and pull these off. And one at a time, I'm going to drop it down one hole. Or bring it up one hole. How about that? Yeah, I might as well take a look at it while I have it off, huh? We'll see what we're revealing here. And you can see we have some more screws in here. And we have one screw that's holding our shock on the back. And the other two screws down here are just holding the case together, it looks like. And then there's our machined hole. So, again, I'm going to go, see, we were on 3, right? Yeah. So I'm on 4 now. I was on 3. I'm going to go ahead and thread that on. And then we'll go over to the other side and do the same thing. Pull this one out. It's probably going to fall over on me. Pull it up one, put it back in, and let's see what that looks like. We have it sitting flat. So you can, I've actually brought this back a little bit now. Actually, I kind of like that. I might just keep it there. You know, a lot of times it'll be at an angle because of the shipping box and however the foam is shaped around it. So yeah, that depends a lot. But I'm going to leave this on 4. I think I might actually like that. A little bit of lean back there. Not much, but a little bit. And then, of course, I'm just going to go back and tighten all of these bolts back up so that nothing moves anymore. And when I'm doing this one, I'm going to make sure I put my finger on it just so it doesn't rotate on me as I'm tightening it down. Let's use that in for a quick tighten. Because I want this thing to sit level. And that's another thing. You want to be putting pressure on this whole thing as you're doing it, just so nothing pulls up on you. So you can usually feel it. My tabletop here, this wood part that you can't see the pedal now that I put it there, is pretty level, which means this should be level too. So it should translate to the base once I get it on there. Again, just kind of put my finger on it to keep it a little bit tight there while I'm tightening down on these. You don't need to put a lot of torque on these. Now we have a very solid pedal again. My lean back is just a little bit more. Degree that is in here. Let's see where they put that in this great manual. I mean, it tells you so much stuff on how to do these pedals. Oh, it makes me feel redundant. Let's see. I'm on the 4th hole. So 1, 2, 3 is 0, and that's where they had it, and that was straight up. So we can actually go forward even more if you need to. If you have a pedal tray that tilts forward, you can actually, or tilts back, you can make it tilt forward. Or if you're going to hang them upside down, you can also do that because they're individual pedals, obviously. And I have it in the 1, 2, 3, 4. So that should be the 3.75, according to the manual there. Degrees, and that's laid back, or negative degrees. 3.75, because we have 3 holes left, and we have 3 holes left here. So that's it. Yeah, great manual, huh? So there we go. That's the adjustments, except for the stop. Now, in here, we have this. You know, like I said, the build is so nice on this. See this steel piece down here? That's a roller, actually. That metal piece there. So it actually, you can put your finger in here, and I can roll it. So that's part of the stop mechanism. And we have a set screw in here with a nut around it. And the nut obviously locks the set screw at whatever adjustment we've put it at. So that's how we do the travel stop. And we have a 10 millimeter socket that we'll use to break loose the nut on the front. So I'll put that on the nut like this. We'll go ahead and put our little, it's pretty tight, but it's new as far as the socket's fitting on this breaker bar. Yeah, it's pretty tight. So I'll go ahead and put this on here, and initially I'm just going to break it loose. Like that. So once it's broken loose, you're done with this, pretty much. But I'm going to pull it back off now because I'm going to need it again. I'll show you why in just a second. All right, so now I can take this set screw and screw it in. I don't know how well I'm going to be able to show you this. All right, so you see the block down in there, and there's the set screw. I'm actually going to screw it in more than I ever would just to show you it coming up. So with it up that much, obviously it's going to give me a shorter stroke on the throttle, depending on what I want. That's where I'll make my adjustments. I'm going to leave it all the way backed out because I think that's probably where I'm going to want it. So I'm going to get it level again, all the way out so there's no contact. And you can see the nut kind of came out with it. So I want that nut to spin back down without this moving, the set screw. So very conveniently, we have a hole that goes all the way through our socket. So I'm going to take the socket. There's a couple ways you can do this. I'm tempted to put my finger back here if it'll fit my pinky to hold the back of that set screw so it doesn't move anywhere, and just finger tighten that nut down to begin with, right there. Hey, that actually worked. Now, if I was having problems with that, what I would do is put the socket on there, and then I would take this and screw the set screw, right, with a wrench. But I'd hold the socket so it didn't move, and then put it in or out where I wanted, and then we'll come back and lock the socket down. While I'm holding this, I'll finger tighten it as best I can, as tight as I can. And then I'll take this off, and then we'll come back with this guy and give it a final tighten so it doesn't come loose on us. Now, there is a way to put this on, just in case you were wondering. Well, I guess they're all the same. I was thinking if sometimes there's dents or indentations in the walls of the socket, but this one has them everywhere to catch the little spring ball that's on the end of this. But I don't see one specifically for that. They look all the same to me, so it doesn't matter. So the kind of things you want to check, because it's a lot easier to get these things off when you do it that way sometimes. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and tighten this nut back up, and probably don't need to torque the heck out of this. Just get it good and snug. And there we go. Got my full throw back. So there it is. There's the adjustments on the throttle. Some of these adjustments are going to carry over to the clutch and the brake, obviously the angle being one of them. But again, I think this is all the adjustments I would ever need to get the feel I want out of this pedal. So we'll just move on to the next segment. So let's go over the clutch pedal adjustments. Now, there's an adjustment two of them I won't be going over because I've already done it in the throttle adjustments that are universal to both of them. And that is the stop up here, right? This little adjustment for our stop, and it has the same metal pin mechanism down in there. You can see it down there, that silver steel roller for the stop. And of course our angle adjustments, which I will be changing on this because I did change it on the throttle, and we want to make them the same. Right now you can see that the clutch pedal is straight up compared to the throttle. Put the throttle out here. Throttle has more of a lean back to it, so we want them to match. At least I want them to match. You don't have to make them match, but I do. I want them that way. We have the bottom here, and we can replace this spring with a black spring. There's a black spring in there. When I did the closer look, I thought this might be a throttle, but I thought it was too short for that when I was looking at it. But yeah, so this is going to be for here. And we're going to replace this and see what the difference is. Right now, I have the preload on this spring as low as I can get it because I want to be able to pull this rod out, number one. Number two is I want to show you how this linkage works. A very clever design here when this linkage, this little rocker linkage, reminds me of some of the F1 or Formula car suspension pieces with the linkages and connecting rods rocking this joint up here. But anyway, as you push down on it, I'm going to hold it back here. It's still pretty stiff with the white in there. But as you push in, just like pushing through a clutch pedals, or rather a clutch systems or assemblies, pressure spring in the spring that's in the pressure plate. And right there, it goes through. And now it's not taking much effort at all to hold it there. See, it'll pop back on me. As soon as I let any pressure off, it pops back just like the spring would in a pressure plate. So it replicates that pretty darn good, actually. Pretty convincing, really, right there. Like I say, on most of these clutch pedals with these type of mechanisms to replicate that feeling, once you're driving at speed and doing some heel and toe shifting and slapping it around, most of that goes away. But we'll see about this one. And the stronger ones, or the stiffer ones, you can still feel a little bit, but again, we'll just have to wait and see when we're driving how that feels. Now, I have that as loose as I can. If I want to tighten this up as far as make it more effort, obviously we don't have the slot in here like we have on a throttle pedal. So what I'll have to do is tighten the spring underneath. And we have that, again, preload adjustment for that, and you can just roll this up and tighten it up. And it's very smooth, by the way. The action on this, very, very smooth. Yeah, all this stuff feels very good when you're using it. Yeah, they've done a good job with this. So anyway, I'm loosening it all. I'm going to take all the pressure I can off of this spring to put that black spring in. So you can see it's moving up and down now freely. Well, I got it too loose. I got to get the spring centered again now. So if you get it too loose, it comes off that cap there, where the centering cap, and then it falls around. But you can see it's pretty loose in there. I think you can see that moving around. You can hear it. All right. So I'm not putting any pressure on this rocker assembly. That's the whole idea. Now, there's a set screw at the end of this rod, and that's a 2mm set screw. And we're going to have to loosen that and pull the steel rod out of there, and it should fall out for us. So let's see how that works. I'm going to take my 2, if I can find it here, and I'm just going to loosen it up. Don't need to take it all the way out. So I'll go ahead and turn that. There we go. Just make sure it's good and loose, and I don't have a lot of pressure on the pin. Then I'm just going to turn my wrench around and see if I can get the pin to move, and there it goes. Now I'm going to set it down when I do this because I don't want everything falling out, which is going to happen if I don't. And I'm going to go ahead and continue pushing this pin out with my wrench so I can get my fingers on it. And then I'm going to put one finger under this to support it as I pull that pin the rest of the way clear. So let's see how that works. There we go. And you see it's dropping down now. Right to that point. And there's our solid steel pin in there. We have kind of a rounded part on the top there. And it's flat over here. And we'll go ahead now and pull this off. I'm actually pulling this whole pin assembly out. Give you a better look at that from the bottom there. I can do this without everything falling apart on me. So this pin comes out. And this pin goes into that blue part, right? And acts as a spring guide. So here's the white spring. Let's see. Yeah, I thought so. The black spring is actually going to be lighter. Give you a look at that. So we want to lube this pin, by the way. When you do this and you take this out, of course, I won't have to do it now because it's brand new. And it still has plenty of grease on it. I don't know if you can see that grease there. It's real slick all the way down it. So I'm just going to leave it alone for now. But it does say in the instructions to lube it again. It's still got lube down inside of there. I think you can still see some of it around the outside lip. So I'm just going to leave that alone. But it does recommend you do that. So now, of course, we're going to put the black spring. And I was just testing that. I don't want to put this. Let me put it down here on something so it won't contact. Well, it'll sit there like that, I guess. Okay, good. So you can see, I don't know how well this is going to show up either, but the black ring or spring is a little bit thinner than the white one. Let me put it over here, black closer to my white shirt. So it's a little bit thinner. I don't know how well that's going to show up. And it definitely, when I put it on the table and push on it, it feels less resistance. Yeah. So let's put this one on. Reverse of taking it off. I'm going to slide it on the cylinder there, just like this. Right? Then I'm going to take my pin that has the keeper. You can see the little ledge on that. That's what keeps the spring centered. Little details like that make things work really well. And I think you can see there's still plenty of lube on this thing. So now I'm going to kind of look down on it here and kind of push it in without losing my spacer. There we go. I think that's it. Okay. See, it just fell right in like it wanted to go back in. That doesn't happen very often. So now I'm just going to push that back in, obviously, and we're going to get our pin back out here. And because there's no pressure on it, I shouldn't have to push down on it or do anything like that to make this work. And the rounded end is what's going in first, because you want the rounded end to be feeding through that slot or that hole there. So it's kind of a dome top one there versus the very flat end on this. So let's do that. Just going to slide it in there. Hopefully everything wound up like it should be. I'm going to set this down on the table, give me a little bit better grip on it. And maybe I do have to push down on it a little bit. There, I'm pushing down on it a little bit. And I think it's going to help it go back in. Yeah, it does. So I did, get my wrench out of the way. I did kind of put a little pressure on it. Not much, didn't take much at all. And now the pin is sliding, as you can see, back in. And I think I should shove it home now. And I'm going to push it so where it's flat or flush with the outside. I don't want to hang it out, obviously. And that'll do it. See how that's flush? But not sticking out? That's where you want it. So now the pin's back in. All we have to do, and you can see here where the dome piece is, it's not really coming through right there. It's not really coming through. It's kind of recessed, which is fine. So we'll take our 2 mil and again, go ahead and tighten that little set screw back in. Give it a little snug. Don't have to put a lot of torque on this. Just snug it up a bit. There we go. I feel good with that. Now, I don't have, let's see, this spring actually looks a little longer maybe. Let me see. Okay, no, it's not. Now I have it super loose in there. But I'm just going to tighten this up just enough to make contact with that metal piece there, our little plastic keeper washer. Just, and I'm going to put a lot of tension on it just so it's not moving around. Now it's not moving. So let's see. Of course, you won't be able to see, but I will. How much easier it is to push it. Oh, yeah. Definitely. You can feel it right away. And this damper is doing a good job as far as the feel of the pedal in general. It kind of adds a fluid feel to the pedal, like you were pushing on a hydraulic slave cylinder that was manipulating the fork on the clutch bearing that would push on the pressure plate springs. So it definitely has a pretty good feel right there. But again, this is on the bench, and like I said before, once you're in the heat of battle and driving, it kind of goes away. But we'll see. And of course, I can still tighten this up by preloading it. And yeah, I can feel that's making it tighter too. But I really like the way they've come up with the linkage here. Isn't that cool? Yeah, I like that. All right, so that's it for the clutch adjustments. Pretty simple. And the well, wait a minute, we still have this. I did want to show you this, even though it's pretty basic stuff here. This is the face, or the pedal faceplate, pad, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to take that off just so we can see the holes real quick. That way I don't have to do it on the brake, because the brake's going to take the longest to do the adjustments video on. So let's try to shorten that up by taking this one off. I always take the bottom out first so that when this top part is loose, loosen it first. There we go. If I had it in there and not up there and take this out, then it kind of wants to flop around on you and it's just a mess, get in your way. So I'll go ahead and roll this out real quick and see what we have. And we'll get a close look at the pedal face itself. Again, very nicely done. It's got a good bevel on it. I like that, the way they beveled that. No sharp edges anywhere. This is very well machined, very well done. And of course, we only have 2 places to put our screws in. And these are M6 screws with flat heads on them, obviously, so they will fit in our countersunk holes. And the back is flat. And a good, I think it's a pretty good radius here for using it underfoot, so it'll slide against the sole of your foot. It doesn't stick. Like sometimes a flat one will stick a little bit. And again, it depends on your personal preference. We have 2 adjustments other than what was already in. It was on the center, and we can actually adjust it up a little or down a little. So there are some adjustments there, unlike the throttle pedal, but you can see the throttle pedals cover so much area. You really don't need it. All right, so easy enough. So we'll go ahead and put this back on. Usually start with the top. Same reason that I start with the bottom when I'm taking it off. And I don't want to tighten it up too much because I want to make sure it's free enough to move around and get the holes lined up. And I'm going back to the middle. I believe that's where I went. Yeah, right where it was, because I think that's probably going to be the sweet spot for what I want to do. And you do want to tighten these up because you're going to be stomping on them. Yeah, there we go. All right, so I think I'm going to leave the black in, but then again, I might change my mind. I might go back to the white for a heavier clutch pedal. Depends on what I'm doing. So it's good to have options though, right? So that's it for now that really is it for the clutch pedal adjustments, and we'll get on to the brake next. So let's take a look at the adjustments available on the brake pedal, and there are a few of them. First off, we'll talk about the damper. How about that? Now, this is a hydraulic damper that's on this brake pedal, and it has a loop in here that we can adjust the amount of tension or difficulty it is as far as pushing against the damper, and also on how it releases. And we have this little valve here, and it has a lock on it, so we can, once we have it where we want it, we can spin this lock down. When we want to adjust it, we can take this lock and kind of spin it back like that and push it in. Now, typically in a hydraulic system like this, you'll have like a needle valve at the end of this. And as we screw the valve in, more of that needle gets in the path of the hydraulic fluid flow that's going to come back over here through our tube. So if I push this all the way in or twist it all the way in, and I'm not going to put a lot of pressure when I'm twisting either. I'm just going to feel where it stops. Right, so that's the end right there, as much as I can do it. And I'm going to push this down, and I'm going to go ahead and feel what that feels like as far as really the release is what I'm looking for here. And because that's a visual for the video, but I can also feel when I'm pushing how much resistance I have. And of course, there is a preload available here, and we'll talk about that in a second. But you can see the release. I'm not sure how well that's going to show in video, but see how the speed of it? Now I'm going to go and take the valve, take the little lock washer back, and now I'm going to take it and loosen it. And I'm not going to pull it all the way out. I'm just going to loosen it. It shouldn't have to come out too far, I would imagine. Then I'll run that lock nut back on there. And then, hopefully this will show up in the video. Yeah, see that? See how quick it releases now? And I'll go ahead and spin it in one more time just so we can see the difference. Once more. Again, I'm not going to force that needle in. I'm just going to where it touches. See the difference? So that's a damping effect, a fluid motion effect when we're pushing on the pedal. And again, that's going to be totally subjective as far as what you want to have this set on. I'm going to pull it back out a few turns, then roll that little lock nut back on there. And it's something you can play with. Now, we also want to talk about the preload, what I was just showing you there. Now, this preload is a big nut, conical looking nut here that turns. And right now, if you see on here, there's two set screws in there. There's one on that side, and if I spin this over, there's another one. And that's a 1.5 millimeter set screw. You want to loosen those before you actually start to tighten down the preload on your spring. And then you can tighten them back up afterwards. You know, to be honest, I probably would just leave them loose. Or not really loose. They're not really loose in there. If I take my 1.5 millimeter, go this way so you guys can see this. And I just have it to where it touches, because I don't want it coming out, obviously. But you can go ahead and snug it up if you want to. And I have the same, that way I can turn this whenever I want to without, this set screw is connecting to a rod in here that I might be able to show you that once I have the elastomer stack or the bumper stack out. It's touching a metal rod in here, and if you crank down on them, it's going to lock this in place, obviously. But if you forget and try to turn it, you might scratch up the rod inside. So that's one of the things where I just kind of said, well, you know what, it's probably not going to move on me. So I'm just going to run the set screw down to where it touches and just leave it there. And I will look at it under the initial use of this brake pedal so that I can see if it's starting to back out or anything, and then I might snug it up. Once I find the preload I want, I might do it anyway. You're probably not going to change this very much once you get where you want it. So that's preload. We had the valve for the dampener that we can adjust here. And before we get to the elastomer stack, actually while I'm getting to it, there is this is called a bell crank. That's what they call it in their book. This little piece here that attaches to the back of the elastomer stack. And when we push the pedal, this will push against the bell crank and it will pivot right here on this bearing. Of course, we can see there's a steel bearing there. And these rollers or bearings will cause it to be a nice smooth motion when it pivots and pushes down on our load cell right here. So as we push it, it's going to push down, put pressure down on the load cell. Remember, it's a load cell. You don't have to put, it doesn't move very much. It just to register the pressure it needs to. I can see that I have one bearing that's moving here. Yeah, I can see that. But I have one that is not. So it's important to have one of these bearings touching. All right. And you can see that if it's turning like that, it's, boy, I tell you what, I'm trying to find the air gap. I don't know if you guys can see an air gap in there, but it's pretty tight. I can't really see any light through it. So it's just enough to turn it as far as the pressure goes. And this one's is a little bit tight because it's not moving. Go ahead and turn around so you can see that. I might be able to force it with my finger. I don't know. But anyway, that's what we want. We want things that are touching. We don't want any gaps in here, so when we push this, not activating the load cell. And in this instance, it will be, because this one I can't turn, but this one I can if I put pressure on it. We'll look at more of that once we get this stack off. Anything else I want to talk about? Adjustments? The other adjustments we've already gone over, as far as the angle, just like when we first did the throttle. Yeah, the pedal faces, we already went over that on the clutch. So we'll just get right to the elastomers. Now, to take this off, it's pretty simple. There is one screw going in here. It's the M3 as far as the wrench size. That's a 3mm wrench size on the head. It's the socket head cap. It runs all the way through and captures the end of our hydraulic cylinder there. So that's all you have to take out. So I'm going to do that. Take my 3mm. Go ahead and get in here. Well, I have to use the other side to loosen it first. So go ahead and loosen that like that. Then I'll just go ahead and run this out. And there we have it. Looks like an M4. You can see it's kind of longish. Socket head cap unit. And now the hydraulic tensioner, or piston in here, damper, is loose. You can see it moves up and down now, right? Another thing we have to do, you see this screw here? Where is it? There it is. And you can see where it's coming inside of the lever on the very bottom, where it's been machined out in this space. We also have one on the other side. Those are keepers. This keeps the pedal from going forward any further than it does. Well, to get the stack off, we need the pedal to go all the way forward. So I'm going to loosen these. Now, to do that, there's pressure on this pedal. Now I'm going to take the preload back off that I put on there, take all of it off. So I'm going to get as loose as I can as far as pressure against that. And I can actually take the damper and kind of push on the back part of it. I'm not pushing on the valve assembly here. I'm pushing on the metal piece with my thumb. So I'm pushing that forward a little bit just to make sure that that's not causing any pressure pushing against the pedal. And then we take all the pressure off here. That should make it easy to turn these screws. But I'm going to go ahead and kind of put my arm on it, elbow here, so I can get some leverage, and pull back on the lever a little bit. See that? And that takes pressure off of that screw. So now I can just kind of take it out. And I'm not going to take it all the way out. I'm just going to screw it out far enough to clear the pedal itself. I'm going to do the other side too, just the same way. And you can see that they're still in there, but they're not protruding at all on either side. So now the pedal should fall forward. And as it does that, I'm going to be watching this stack here. I don't want it to go crazy and fly all over the place. So gently pull it forward, and you can see it's coming loose now. I'm going to catch the back of it so it doesn't go anywhere, and just tilt everything forward like that. And there it is. That's pretty slick. I mean, there's not much wrong with this design as far as I'm trying to find something wrong the way it works, how it makes it more difficult than it should be or something. And yeah, this is pretty slick the way they do this. Now I'm going to pull this stack off. It's one piece, hopefully, and keep it all together, because I think I'm going to use this stack, the configuration it's in right now. Go ahead and set it down, and we'll take a look at that in a second. But before we do that, I just wanted to again show you about this bell crank and how it contacts how to make that adjustment where it contacts the load cell. So we don't want to preload the load cell. We just want it making contact. So if it wasn't making contact here on this bearing over here, I think I might be able to just barely get that to move a little. But this one here will move easier. So if both of them were moving like that, then I would come in here, and there's a set screw right in there. And I would push it in to put more pressure on it, or I would twist it out to take pressure off of the bell crank. So that's something that is in the instructions in the manual that you want to pay attention to. So that's another adjustment. But I'm pretty sure once you set this, you're never going to have to set it again, because I mean, we've got some heavy duty steel bearings back here riding on top of this. I don't think it's one solid piece, except for the hole for the shaft in there that goes in for our stack. But it's one solid piece of machined aluminum there, so I don't think it's going to move much. Yeah, very good build here as far as the stiffness. Gives me confidence that it's not going to move. All right, so now we got to the part. This is the preload spring, and this will not come all the way off. If I twist this all the way up, you can see I've got some threads here on the shaft that holds the elastomer stack or bumper stack. You see the threads there. Now, if I turn this all the way up, it stops. So in other words, the threads are cut into the shaft, this original shaft here, which makes it to where it will stop there. So I'm assuming from mechanical engineering reasoning and the things I've worked on so much is that this shaft itself will screw out of this block, and then we could screw this all the way down. So I'm thinking this shaft goes into this block. See this little sleeve in here? It's machined on top of this block. I'm sure that's threaded there, and that goes inside of it, right? So we could take this out. Probably has some Loctite, have to heat it up or something. There we have it. Very simple mechanism. Everything works very well, very tight. There's a lot of free play here, just enough lash. I'm feeling just enough lash here to keep things moving freely, but still give you a sense of solid feel to this piston here. That's going to be used a lot when we're braking. Right. So let's turn our attention to the stacks. Now, I'm going to show you this again, the manual. There are, how many they have listed here? 19, is it 19 or 20? Actually 20. 20 different configurations that you can combine to come up with what you want here. And again, this is really, it looks more complicated than it is. It's just a matter of how many spacers, bumpers you're putting in, things like that, and you'll come out with the result. Now they also put on here, and I'll show you this on our dial. This is the elastomer stacks. We have the light one here, and I don't know how this is going to show up, but you'll see it better when I show you the elastomers. We have the medium here, and that has like one dot on all of them. And then we have the hard over here, which has 2 dots cut out of them in the manufacturing process. So let's take a look at that. Now, I have different ones. Let's see, did I mess them up? I actually mic'd all these out, not mic'd them out, but I put them on my Shore dial durometer gauge, Shore A. And they're very accurate, actually, what these bumpers are. I guess kind of impressed with that. Because most of the time, the bumpers can be, the same kind of bumper is supposed to be the same strength, is in the same set. They're a little bit off, more off than I would like to see them. Now, I'm going to show you the bumpers. Here's what I was talking about on this indicator. See those 2 dots? So this would be the hardest one. And the hardest one, I believe I got 85 out of that when I did it. Let's see if, I don't know if you guys are going to see this, be able to see this. I'm doing it left-handed too. But yeah, that's about 84, 85. And if I take the next one in the stack and do the same thing, that's right at 85. And if I take the biggest one out, which is going to have really the most flex because it's the longest one, durometer will be the same, right on 85. So these are very close, like I was saying. I've already done this to all of them, and I was pretty surprised at how close they are. The mediums, or the 1 dots, these are, I believe these were 80. Yeah, so that's 80. And again, if I take the other ones and put them on here, they're very, very close. Again, right on 80. And get my grip right on this one. This one's about 79. Okay. So 1 is not that big of a spread in my book anyway. And the lightest ones, or the softest ones, they're 75, I believe. Or 70, okay. So these are more like 70. That's 69 there. Let's see what this one is. So that one's a little hair over 70. And, as you get to the softer bumpers or elastomers, they tend to have more of a variance than the harder ones because of the manufacturing process, and they're just soft to begin with. So anyway, there we have it. We have 70, we got 70, 80, and 85 as far as the different ones. Now, the original stack here, and I've already looked at this, so I'm going to keep it the way it is. First of all, you want to keep this stack in the right order. What I mean by that is on the top and the bottom, we want to make sure that those pieces stay in the same place. And I'll show you the back assembly here. It's a 2-piece unit. And what this is a cone-shaped piece here. I'm not sure what this plastic is, but it feels very like nylonish, but very, very stiff. And on the black piece, you can see it also has concave in there, and it's flat on the other side. And this fits in, obviously, the concave, and allows this to move around a little bit, to shift as the angle of the brake pedal shaft right here, as we are pushing the brake pedal, that will change relative to the bell crank hole where the nylon grommet is in there. So as that changes, it allows a little bit of shifting in there to keeps things moving quite smoothly. And this feels very smooth, like it's impregnated maybe with some kind of lubrication. Very clever design here. It's the first time I've seen this on a brake pedal like that. So yeah, I really like what I'm looking at here. Now, the rest of it is the order of the stack of the washers, and there are two sides to some of these washers that go in between, or spacers, or whatever you want to call them. And you can see this has a ledge on it, or a little lip on this one. That's to catch the bumper, or the elastomer. So as it gets squished, it gets contained by that lip. And the other side is flat, so we don't want this part against it. We want to flip it around and make sure we have this, because this won't contain anything, right? And this is the first bumper off, and this has no markings on it, which means it is the softest one. Then we'll take the middle one off, and you can see that it has two sides with lips on it. And the next bumper is a 1 dot. I believe that was the 80. And these are 20 mils. I believe these are 20 mil. Yeah, these are 20 mil links. And I'm going to put that aside. And then the last one, and again, we have another double-sided spacer. And the last one is a double, as far as the dots are concerned. So this is the 85, and it's a 10 millimeter. So there we have the stack. And on the bottom, the very bottom, we have this piece that obviously has the lips, the little lip around it. And this piece here is for fitting into our preload spring, so it doesn't go anywhere, it stays centered. And we have another piece like that right here that catches the other side of the spring. I'm going to put the spring back on, like that. So that's the way the stack needs to be done. So we always need this at the spring side, and we always need these two guys. It rests up against the bell crank piece here. Other than that, do what you want to do, right? And of course, we have spacers and everything over here. We got these are 10 millimeter spacers, and we got one 5 millimeter spacer. So you can build it any way you want to. And yeah, that's pretty easy, isn't it? I'm going to leave it the way it is. Reassembling is pretty easy. I would actually just go ahead and put this back on so it catches the spring. And then I'll take my, really, I'm not sure the order these go back on, but I'm going to put it back on exactly the way it came off. So I'm going to start with, I'm going to find my, remember this is the part here that has the lip on it. So I don't need anything other than this to start. And I'll go ahead and put my double dot 10 millimeter on there. Then I'll put one of my double-sided bits on there. Then I'll come back with the, what was the next one? The single dot. One more double side. And we'll go with the no dot, which is our softest one. And here's where we finish it off with the flat-sided piece that has the lip on the other side, and that will go towards the bumper. And of course, our two-piece unit here. And there we have it. Pretty simple. And again, mix and match as you want to. It's totally up to you. Now I'm going to put this back together. And again, it's pretty simple. I'm just going to support this so the elastomers don't slide off. And this should follow along as I lift lever up, and it does. And this will hit this piston here, or the shaft, will hit the bell crank hole before that shock does, or the damper. And I'm going to straighten that damper up. You saw me just twist it a little bit so it lines up with the slot that it goes in, so I don't have to do that later. So I'm just going to kind of rock this back, and you can see how it went a little low there. So I'll just get my finger underneath, support it a little bit as it approaches the hole, lift it up, and kind of wiggle around till it slides into the plastic grommet that's inside of here. If I can do that without my bumpers going anywhere. There we go. I think that's it. Yeah. Of course, it popped back out as soon as I took pressure off of it. There we go. So as I keep pressure on it, now what I'm going to do is go in and tighten up my keeper screws here, or my stops, if you will. Right? So we can go ahead and tighten those back up so the lever will not fall forward anymore. Very simple. As I'm pulling back on it, taking pressure off the stops themselves, and I'll do that the same way over here. So the stops are now fully engaged. Very nice design as far as the stops go too. Like I like the way the engineering is on this whole, as far as the complete package here, the way this has been thought out and designed and implemented. And yeah, so only one thing left to do. Let's put our M4 bolt back in. And again, that was a 3mm hex, but I'm going to feed it in with my finger first. And if you'll notice, the end of our damper is not lined up with the slot properly, so we can get the screw through there. So I'm just going to take my fingers and kind of push it into the slot to where I think it should be, but then I can kind of adjust as I'm putting, I'll just keep my fingers back here as I'm putting this in here. There we go. Actually, I got it right on first time, but I could have pulled it or pushed the damper using my fingers here to get it to line up with the eye, if you will, the end hole on this, and just push it home. Now we're just going to go ahead and put it back in, and we don't have to tighten this a lot. I'm just going to go ahead and put a little bit of torque on it. That should do it. And there we have it. Pedal is finished. So we made our adjustment on our brake pedal, then I come back in maybe and adjust my preload back to where I wanted it. And then again, like I said, maybe do the set screws once I get the preload to be exactly where I want it to be. And again, you don't know that until you get these mounted and you get your feet on them and you're pressing them and messing with them. Then you'll know for sure. So yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I really like the way this is assembled and the construct of it. They really did a good job with this. So we'll just go on to the next segment. So let's put the Pro Pedal base plate together. And this is going to be a very easy thing to do. Out of the box, it comes kind of pre-assembled. At least it's, I would call preloaded. They actually load the spring ball T-nuts in here, the ones that you'll need. Now, this is for each pair of pedals, right? And over on this side, we have this for holding some brackets. And these are spring ball T-nuts, 40 series, because this is 40 series profile. Each one of these profiles, put this back, has a hole drilled and some M8 threads tapped in each end of it. And that's going to help us attach to the side brackets that make up the structure. So the profiles are going to fit back here on these two pieces, and then these three slots you see on each end of this are going to be for our heel plate, right? This is a nice heel plate. It is 4mm thick. It's got a, it's not anodized. It's some kind of a painted coat. Maybe even, this might be some kind of a powder coat, but it's a nice finish to it. I got fingerprints all over it, and I've been handling some bolts, so got some grease on it too in places. That's just the hazards of putting this kind of stuff together. We have some holes up here, and we'll talk about those when we get to that point of the assembly and what we're going to do. The first thing we're going to do is load up or pre-stage these 40 series profiles. And that means we have a couple of brackets we need to put on them. And these brackets look like this. Again, some nice, these look like they're anodized aluminum bits. They have a hole in it there. They have this little bevel piece in there, so you'll know which ones they are. And they have a M6 hole here and some M5 holes here. And these are going to be the connection point between our 40 series profiles and the side brackets themselves. And how that goes on, I've already put a couple on here to show you guys. This is using a M6 bolt, and I believe this is the 20mm bolt. Yeah, I believe these are 20mm. Last time I checked, or are they 15? Yeah, they're 20s. And they have to be kind of long because they're going all the way through this bracket and then into our T-nut down there. And I have these attached rather loosely. I don't have them on tight yet because I don't know exactly where it's going to be. I want this to end up flush. And when I put this on there, you'll see what I mean. So that this is nice and level here. So it goes up flush against the bracket here and on here all together. So we can put our screws on the other side of the bracket, grab it here. And of course the M8 bolt will grab it there. But we'll see that as it goes together. And I kind of put two of these on here already. Very easy to do. Just decide which is going to be your top. And the top is where this curved part goes on the bracket. So we'll take one of these and we'll take one of our, they only get 4 of these, so it's easy to find these bolts. And I'll do the same thing over here. And that's going to be my top, obviously. I already got my T-nut in there. Very nice. Just set it on top. Find your hole, and there you go. Couldn't be easier. I'm going to kind of line it up by eyesight, but I might change that, so that's why I'm not really going to torque these down as I put them on at this stage of the game. And we'll go ahead and put this one on. Again, very easy stuff to do if you've ever messed with profile before. And even if you haven't, I'm using my own wrenches here, but don't forget they include a set of wrenches in your pedal set. So this is going to be, let's see, I think they split them like this. This goes to the back, and this goes to the front like this. And that's the way they're going to go on. So we'll have these brackets facing each other. So these two guys are going to be looking at each other like this. Now, let's put one of the sides on, and you'll see how this is working. Again, pretty easy stuff here. And we've got some bolts we're going to use here. We've got these M5 button heads, and they are a little dirty. They got some grease on them from the shipping grease. A lot of times we'll store bolts in grease, so yeah, they are a little greasy, so be ready for that. And these will fit in here like this through the plate on the side. You'll see that as it comes together. And we have these 4 5mm socket head cap M8s. So what we're going to do here is very easy. Just line it up with the holes here. I've got a big M8 hole here, and I've got 2 smaller there. And we have the same thing on this side. So I'm going to get the M8 started first, because I might want to do some realignment on that little side bracket that we put on. And again, this is an M6, not an M5. Thought that was an M6, but it's not. It's an M5. Oh, captured my magnet. All right, so let me grab my 6. Thought that looked a little large for a 5. And again, I'm not going to get it real tight at this point. You can almost see what I was talking about here. Let me snug that up just a little. There's a little gap in here on this bracket. Well, that's going to show up. There's a little gap in there, and I'm going to loosen that a little bit and make sure I've shoved it up tight against that, press it up tight, and then tighten it down. That's the way I'm going to do it anyway. And we'll go ahead and get this guy going because we're already here. Might as well do one side at a time. See how all this is going to line up for us. Again, take my 6mm. Slide it on there. It's fun building this kind of stuff. All right, so now I can see, I'm going to go ahead and snug this up because I want to do the brackets last. So I'm just going to snug that up to make sure I'm pulling this plate tight and flush against the profile end. So I'll do the same thing on this guy. Don't have to put a lot of torque on this stuff. Just get it good and tight. It's not going to go anywhere once we tighten it down. Now, these are 5mm, our brackets in here that I talked about before. And you can see there's a little space on that one too. But I did that on purpose because now I can loosen these up a little. Let me do it this way so you guys can see it. Just a little bit. Don't have to loosen it a lot. And it'll actually just fall straight down on there. And I'll take my finger and tighten it a little bit. Just finger tight. Do the same one, same way. So it falls down straight. Tighten it up with my fingers. Hopefully it won't go anywhere. And what I'm going to try to do is pull these in with these 20mm long button heads, right? So I'm going to do that now. Let me check that, make sure. I think there's 15. Yeah, these are 15, not 20. Thought that was a little bit long. And now I'll put each one in. Go ahead and get the bottom one in. Again, everything being loose is going to make it easier to get these screws started. And they are, I believe these are 3s. Are they 4s? Yeah, they're 3s. So I'll get those going. Go ahead and pull them in. And as I pull these in tighter, it's going to pull this block because it's still loose on the other side. It's going to pull it up nice and flush with this bracket. So I'll just kind of finger tighten there too. As I pick this up, I'll show you guys that. So that pulled that bracket in nice and tight. So it's kind of a sequence of events that I'm trying to do here to make everything fit like it should. So now I see it's tightening up properly. I'm going to go ahead and put a little tighten on it. I'm not going to, I'm going to be easy with it because these are button heads, and you could possibly strip that out, and that's the last thing you want to do. So now that I know this is as tight as I can get it against this bracket here, I can go ahead and finish tightening that M6 that's in there against that T-nut. And that will make it nice and secure, like that. And then we'll do the same thing over here. I'll get 2 more of my 15mm button heads. Start one up here and start one down here. All right. Get my 3mm. And this is a ball end type of wrench, which lets me get off angle, which is very handy to have on hand. I'll go ahead and spin this one in. And remember, this is still kind of loose on this side. Make sure it's really loose. I don't want it flopping or binding up at all. So I'll go ahead now, and just like we did on the other one, I'll take this and tighten it up, bringing that bracket nice and tight against our side piece here. If I can get it in there. Okay. And then I'll use my fingers to tighten as far as I can go, and then go ahead and tighten it up with the 5mm hex wrench. Again, I'm not going to really crank down on this because you don't want to strip anything out, and it usually seals pretty good anyway. So there we go. Now we have all our bolts installed here. We have everything flush on the brackets on this side. So what we'll do is do the exact same thing on this side, and when we come back, we'll take a look at the finished product. All right, so now we have the base assembled. And of course, we just put the other plate on the other side. We already had this plate on. Now, when I put this plate on, I left it loose as far as being able to jiggle it around. See how the light's hitting it? Just a little bit. It's only about 1 millimeter or 2 that this thing can move. And the reason I did that, this heel tray that we're going to be putting in it's going to be very tight when it goes in here. So it's going to need a little room to get it in there where I want it to be. And I don't know where I want it to be yet, but we're going to find that out in a minute. Now, if you notice, there is a pair of holes on each side of this plate. This is going to be the front of the heel plate. This is the back. That has a narrower, or not quite as wide lip on it as the front does. Now, these are the other blocks they give us to do this with. Very similar to the blocks we used over here already. And by the way, in case you were wondering why we were putting these blocks on here, on this section, is because these profiles, we could have just put the M8 bolts in there, right? And just left well enough alone. But the problem is, even with these bolts in here and tighten them down, there could be some twisting, or it could actually move on us. And remember, when the pedal is sitting up here, let's say we got the clutch pedal sitting here like this, and we're using it, we're putting a lot of torque, lifting torque, on the front bar here. And not only at the same time, we're using a twisting torque down on the back. So they can actually twist torsionally. And then you don't want that, obviously. You want it nice and solid. So in keeping with what they've done so far, as far as the pedal set, if you guys have watched the video to this point, you know, very, very good build quality on the pedals and the engineering involved in it. Yeah, this does not surprise me that they put these in here. So really an anti-twist function, and they're going to work perfectly for that. Now, back to our plate and the brackets we're going to use here. These are just adapter brackets that allow us to mount this to this front part here. So these 2 holes are going to match up with these 2 holes. And it's going to sit on the bottom like this. And we're going to use these 20mm M5 button head screws to do it. Now let's go ahead and get one started here. Get those started. You just kind of wiggle it around as you look down there. And I'll go around and get the rest of them done. All right, so we got it done, and that was a lot of screwing to do, wasn't it? And I'm going to come back, snug these up. These holes should align well. That's why I'm going to go ahead and do this now. I don't think we're going to have any problems because of the slots and the way they're shaped on the sides here with getting these lined up to where we want them to be. It's just a matter of trying to figure out where we want this heel plate to be once we get it set up right. So what I'm going to do to find out where I want it to be as far as the level, am I going to want it in the first, second, or top one? I'm going to turn this around, kind of sit it in here. Remember, this is loose, so this will fit down in there. And once I get this mounted where I want it, then I'll tighten this back up on this part of the base plate. So we'll let it sit there. And now I'm going to just put my pedals up here to get an idea of where we're at. Like that. That's the way the pedals are going to look once we have them on here. And now I'm going to lift this up and try to figure out where my foot is going to be as far as height. And I have my shoe here so I can figure it out. I'm just going to kind of test hold it here and then put my shoe up here. And yeah, that's what I thought. I'm going to want it as high as I can get it. And that's where I'm going to be. So wherever the highest position is, and of course on this system, that would be, I'll go ahead and take these back off before I dump one of them. And we have 4 more of these 15 millimeter M5s left over that they include 1 washer with. So there's a washer on here. And they give you 4 washers, so it's specifically for this part of the assembly. And we're just gonna, let me turn it this way. So I just put this in here, kind of look to the side where my hole is, and see if I can get that started. Here's one. Now, grab it on a different spot here. See if I can get the other one done. Wiggle around a little, find the hole. Okay, now I'm going to go over and I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side with my last pair of M5 screws. But this time I'm just going to kind of hold it up like this. So you can see that having it loose is much easier getting this done than if I was trying to squeeze it in there with the bolts on the other side plate fully tightened where the 40 profiles are. So once I have it at this point, it's just a matter of running it in. And there is some adjustability here as far as forwards or backwards for your heel plate. So I can push this forward if I wanted to. Get that one a little tight. If I wanted to get further away from the pedals or closer. Not a lot of room, but if you want to fine tune it, there it is. And I think probably the middle is going to be where I'm going to be with my feet. At least based on what I've seen so far. And I've done a few of these sets, as you guys know, over the years. So I kind of have a general idea of where I'm going to end up when I'm doing these things. But if you haven't ever had a set like this and you're doing it for the first time, then you may have to do this once or twice to get it perfectly dialed in where you want it. And I'm going to go ahead and just see if I can tighten this up now, because I'm not going to worry about moving it anymore. I think this will suffice for my testing. Go ahead and get the other side done. And again, I'm not going to be torquing down on these a lot. I'm just going to snug these things up. This also is helping solidify the mount in general, because now we have this plate spanning across here that's firmly attached to the sides here. Now all I have to do now is go in and tighten these up. I'm going to tighten the main ones first, our M8s, which are 6 millimeter wrench. Give it a good tighten there. And then I'll come back and with my 3 mil and tighten up the smaller M5s that you saw on the other part of our assembly process. And just go ahead and tighten these back up. Now, I had already tightened them up once to get these lined up properly, so I know they're exactly where they need to be. So I didn't have to loosen those at all. And also when you're assembling this stuff, having everything loose before you do a final tighten on it keeps everything nice and level and squared up to where it should be. And then you kind of tighten it up in sequence and you should be done. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put a finish tighten on these. Again, not too much. Button heads are not as strong as socket head cap bolts, so you want to keep that in mind when you're tightening them up. easier to strip them out because they have less metals to support your wrench. Right. So there we have it. It feels pretty solid, and it's got some heft to it. So I think this is going to be a very stable base plate to use. I think they did a good job with this. I don't think this is going to have any issues when I bolt it down to my platform on my pedal tray that's on my rig and then start hammering on it. And the pedals, might as well put those on here real quick. Take a look at them. I'm not going to fix them right now. I will before I take them over to the rig, but just to get a look at where they're going to be and how it all looks when it's put together. So let me slide this forward a little bit. There we go. I'm going to wrench that away, my shoe out of the way. Oh, I'm going to do one more shoe fitting, and there we go. That's good. That covers the pedal very good, the brake pedal. So I can come over and swing over and get my heel and toe going. Yep. That's perfect. It's right, the ball of my toe, or the ball of foot as they call it, the back part of your big toe. That's where I like to be, kind of like in the middle of a pedal when I'm using it. Of course, that's very subjective. Some people might want to do it a little differently. But yeah, I think this looks good. What do you guys think? I think this is going to be great once we get it on there, and it's going to obviously going to be very solid. And I can't wait to get these pedals set up so I can do some heel and toe and see how they react. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get these mounted to the rig and see what they look like. So now I have the pedals securely attached to our base plate assembly. I used you can see the bolts right in here, and I used these M6 bolts. The rest of the hardware, attachment hardware, came in plastic bags, but these bolts are specialty bolts. You can see they have a little bit of a smooth shank there right under the socket head part of it. And then we have threads, and these are 16 millimeters long, and they're in the shipping foam that's in the box. And I'm showing you some video of it here. And you pull them out, they're in a line there. So you just pull them out of there. And yeah, those are the ones you're going to want to use to attach the pedals. And I have one left to put in over here. They are a 5 millimeter size as far as the wrench that you're going to need. And I think I have these pretty much where I want them. I'm not going to tighten them down real tight yet because I'm not sure. I have to get this mounted on my rig, as you might imagine, before I can tell if that's going to be exactly where I want them. But I'm going to do some heel and toe. So I typically put the pedal for the brake pretty close to the throttle. So when I have my foot on there, I can reach over and whack the throttle. And it feels pretty good as far as everything's concerned. It's sitting here. Of course, it's not under my foot yet. And I've already attached the brake. It comes out of the back of the load cell here into the controller board where it says brake. That's the controller board, obviously, that you saw before, that is embedded in the throttle. And then we'll be able to adjust the force of that brake as far as how many kilograms it takes to activate it totally. And yeah, I'll probably have it pretty dialed up pretty high, I imagine. So yeah, feels very good, very solid. And I can't wait to get these underfoot and use them. So I'm going to take them over to the rig right now and get them mounted. Our Simtrecs Pro Pedal GT is now mounted. It looks pretty good in there, I think. And they're mounted on a SimLab P1X pedal tray, but this, as you might think, an error, is not a P1X cockpit. It's a GT Omega Prime cockpit. And this is their new cockpit that they're coming out with. It's all profile. And the reason I'm even saying anything about it is that, yeah, it's the same distance in between the front here, so I could mount this pedal tray instead of the one that came with the GT Omega Prime, because it was just like a 3 millimeter. If you saw the review, I did that before I did this pedal review. Yeah, it's kind of a thin pedal tray, 3 millimeters of steel, stamped steel, with just one little support going across that's spot welded. Yeah, it didn't do a very good job as far as feel underfoot. And we all know that the SimLab P1X pedal tray is a monster to begin with, and it's very, very solid. So that's what I wanted to run when I was officially testing these pedals. And that's also why you may see some scuffing marks already on the pedal tray, because I've been running them. But yeah, looking good in here. This is just a good looking set of pedals. Simtrecs has done a great job here. If you've been watching any part of the review so far, you already know that. The base plate is very solid. I've already been hammering on these things. And yeah, very solid the way they build the base plate here, which makes sense. Yeah, when I was putting together, I knew that. So we have a nice solid base, nice solid mount. What we're going to do now is get in and do some real heel and toe and put some pressure on these pedals and see what we think. So now we're going to go over the Simtrecs Smart Drive application real quick. I'm just going to touch on this. I'm not going to make any extensive curves or setting points on the curves for the brake pedal, throttle, or the clutch. Just give you an idea of what this software can do. When you first open it and you have the fresh set of pedals out, you start from the default settings. Now, if you mess up or you lost your way or whatever the case may be, you can go up here and click Reset to Default, and that's what it'll do. Now, first off, we'll go over to the clutch. And if you notice over here on the clutch, it says set pedal to rest position and hit this button. So this is part of the calibration routine. So I'm going to do that. It's at the rest position. I'm going to go ahead and hit that button, and you can see it zeroes out on the raw. Everything went to 0%. Now I'm going to press it all the way down, and I'll hit it again, and it's getting the high point then as far as the travel range. You can see there's a gray bar up here now for that travel range. All right. Now I could set in some dead zone if I needed to, like if I rest my foot on it and it goes past this. See how it peaks right there? I don't want it. In other words, I don't want to rest my foot and see any of that. Because sometimes you rest your foot on your pedals when you're going down a straight, that kind of thing. And if you can actually have something on like a clutch or some of your brake. So that's why we have the dead zones, obviously. So now we're going to go over to the throttle and do the same thing. It's on the rest position. Make sure I release it, and that's where it's at. I'll hit the button, and it zeroes out there too. Then I'll go ahead and press it all the way down. So as far as the travel will let me go, and I'll hit that button. So now there's my range. So you can see now the bars are all filling up when I do the clutch and I do the throttle. Now that's never going to happen in the brake unless you have it soft enough to push it all the way down. Right now you can see on my output and over here on the input part of my curve here, I can go all the way down. All right. So I'm going to just click on the button without my foot on the brake pedal. And there's 0% right there. You notice this is jumping a little bit. And this is not something that's that strange when it comes to a load cell circuit. Because they embedded the electronics inside the throttle pedal's metal housing, I'm sure it's helping to mitigate that. This is not jumping enough to make a difference when you're driving the car. Between 0.1 and 0.2% is what I'm looking at here. Maybe once in a while I'll see 3. That's really nothing. But if you see it jumping like 2-3%, then you have a little problem with EMI. Now I have a direct drive wheel. This Podium DD1 is currently on, so it is emitting some EMI, even though it's in a metal case, and obviously Fanatec does what they can to mitigate that. We still have the power cords and everything to deal with. So now I'm going to go ahead and press the brake pedal, and you see the output and the input are now completely white, so there's no input there. And now when I press it, it goes all the way, and that's where I want it to be. Now, let's say that's too soft for me on the brake. All right. Now, there's a maximum brake force up here, and it's defaulting at 85. Now, this is a fine tune. If you read the directions, this is more of a fine tune deal than something else. All right. It's not made to just go and tune it here. You really want to do the major tuning or the big tuning on the potentiometer that's on the throttle pedal on the side of it down there. And that's what I'm going to do. Right now, I'm feeling the pressure it takes me to max the pedal out. And of course, you can't see that. It's something I have to feel. And now what I'm going to do is reach down, put my mouse out of the way, and change the potentiometer and roll it towards clockwise, which will increase the load cell pressure. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a good shot there. That should make it hard, really hard, maybe impossible for me to push the brake pedal far enough down to max it out again. So I'm going to try that. I'm going to grab my steering wheel and get my back down in the seat good. And then we're going to give it a push, see what we can do here. Yeah. Oh. I got it to go, but that took a lot more effort. So this is a good feature on this brake pedal set where we can dial in that load cell depending on what you want to feel as far as how hard it is to push a brake pedal. Now, of course, I have some travel. You saw how much travel I'm getting in the brake pedal to do that. Ugh. So I can put a stack in here in some dead spacers, what I call them, the solid spacers. So this pedal barely moves when I'm putting that kind of pressure on it. Again, pedal movement or the range that this brake pedal is moving is totally subjective in what you want to feel. And I haven't really driven them yet, so I'm going to stay with this for now because I like to feel a little motion in my brake pedal when I'm pushing on it. And, you know, I'm going to be pushing a little bit on it so I can go out there and get that throttle pedal like that with my heel when I'm doing my heel and toe shifting. That we're obviously going to be pounding on this. I may change this a little bit. It is a little bit much, I think, for me, what I typically like to feel. So I may change that, but that's what experimenting is all about. So I just want to basically go over the software with you. And of course, on each one of these pedals, we can change this curve. Of course, you can see all the way across clutch, brake, and throttle, they are linear curves right now, straight lines. So if you want to change that, I want to go in and say, okay, I want to do exponential. So I would click on exponential. Brake pedal is probably the only thing I would ever mess with, but it depends on the car you're driving. If you want to tweak the throttle or the clutch to make it engage sooner or later, that kind of thing, that's fine too. And what I'm going to do, you can't drag this. I'm trying to drag it around, nothing's happening. You have to go in and go with these little up, or you can just enter a number if you think you know where you want to be. So I'm just going to run them down with the arrows here. If you hold the arrow down, it'll keep going down. And I'm going to show you the curve is going up on the right-hand side there. So what that means is, as I apply this brake pedal, it's really going to put a lot of brake pressure on in the beginning. And then it's going to taper out. I really got to push it, try to get it to the finish. So again, these are the things you can do to maybe prevent you from locking up the wheels if you want to use a curve in your brake pedal for that. I prefer personally a linear one, but we're going to go the other direction. And what that would do is, let's see, let's just go ahead and put it at, well, I have my keyboard handy here, so let me just go ahead and roll it back. Let's go up to 12 the other way. See what we got here. Ours 10. That should do. That should be good. So now I'm having to put a lot more pressure. See how it's not jumping, it's not going up as much as far as the output down there. See that in the first part? But then as I start going up the curve and the curve starts curving up, then towards the end, it really, I'm not moving much to get a lot more pressure put on the pedal. So I'm probably not going to use this pedal at the potentiometer setting that we see right now, because it's really stiff. And I'm getting a lot of movement. Like I said before, I could stiffen up this brake pedal or make it so it had hardly any travel like this and still have the same requirement for the brake pressure on the load cell to make it fill all the way up, right? And again, totally subjective stuff we're talking about here. Now you can highlight this and just go back to 0 if you want. There is no auto 0 function on this. Well, wait a minute. I might be able to go to reset to default, see what it does. No, it didn't do it either. No big deal. And you can save your configurations, obviously, on this. It's a slick piece of software, actually, the way it works. If I wanted to load settings from a file, I would click up here, or save settings to the pedal. Let's say those are settings I want to save. I hit that and say save successfully. Go back to the defaults, which really is what I just saved. Load setting from pedal. That is, if the pedal already has a setting saved, like I just did, it would load those settings. But typically, I think what you'll be doing is save settings to a file and then load the settings from that file. And I'm going to load settings from a file and just see what pops up. There it is. And I've already made a folder that will handle that, my settings file under the Simtrecs folder. And I can actually load this. And it'll give me a choice. Some things I can not load if I want to. So it gives me another chance to load that. So I'm just going to hit load. And it should give me what I just had. As far as, see how my curves are linear now. And you can see the output. See that there? Now I got to recalibrate because it's at 13% because I reset to default. That was a default setting, by the way. I just loaded, so nothing custom. So again, I would just hit that at the rest, and then I would go ahead and press it all the way down, and there you go. So again, we would just do that again. But you can see where these bars here have blue in them, and we don't want to see that when the pedals are sitting at rest. A lot of things you can do here, a lot of things to play with. You have a firmware update. Currently, our firmware is version 18, 625.220. And if you want to do a firmware update, you would click that, and you would have already downloaded your firmware, and you would say, okay, open. Of course, it's going to be a bin file. So this is really all that I wanted to show you guys as far as a high-level look at this SimDrive software. So we'll go ahead and get on to the next segment. So we're at Sebring in iRacing, and we're in the Lotus 79 for some heel and toe work. All right, so let's talk about these pedals. The throttle pedal has that hydraulic piece in it, and it feels very good underfoot, very fluid feeling. And I was able to find a good setting for the pedal that let me modulate the throttle the way I thought I needed to control the car and get consistent laps. I did have to put some preload on it and move it all the way up in the slot on the pedal lever to get the force that I wanted. But yeah, the adjustment was there is the important part, and I was able to get happy with it. The brake pedal, with all that assortment of bumpers that it has, and it has the potentiometer on the side of the throttle pedal itself that we can dial either up or down. There's a tuning in there that you should be able to find something, I'm thinking, because I could, that felt good, and I came up to speed pretty quick on that. I might want to tweak on it some more, but yeah, this kind of stuff's very subjective anyway. I do like the fact that you can reach down right on the throttle and just turn that potentiometer if you need more force or less force to get the feel that you want. I had mine towards the very top, and if you turn this all the way, according to the manual, that gives you 95% of the full force, or 100 kilograms of pedal face pressure. So that's how much you will be pushing, and that's well over 200 pounds. So you'll be pushing that much force to get the brake to operate fully, which is a lot of force for especially long stints. And I don't think you really need any more than that, even though I'm sure some people would argue with that, but it's all subjective at the end of the day. And yeah, plenty of pressure here. I actually came off of that. I didn't have quite 100 kilograms of pressure on the front, on the pedal face. I just dialed it in where it felt right to me. And that's what everybody needs to do. There is no right way. You just dial it in to where you can do your threshold braking, you can do your trail braking to maximize your slip angles, turn entry, and things like that. That's what it's all about. And that makes you very consistent. And that's, again, consistent is what wins races, not going real fast and overdriving the car and skidding and sliding. Now, the clutch pedal is a surprise here. Most of the clutch pedals that I've tried in the past that have some kind of a pressure spring type of simulation in the pressure plate. So if you feel like you're pushing through that spring in a pressure plate in a clutch pack, that actually, I was able to tune that to where I could still feel it even when I was stabbing on it, when I was switching gears. And most clutch pedals don't do that. They kind of disappear after I'm doing heel and toe. I'm just kind of stabbing at the pedal. I can't feel anything except the pedal bottoming out. But here I could actually feel towards the end, still feel that I was pressing through a bit of a pressure plate spring. And I did put the heavy white spring on the bottom shock, I'm calling it, coilover. And I did put some preload on it, pretty decent amount of preload to get that. But it was there. And I was very surprised to be able to still feel that when I was actually doing this. So yeah, the pedals really are coming through here. I was looking hard at these pedals, trying to find something that I can complain about, or I can say, well, they could do this better, or I'd like to see this done, like I usually do. But this is a set of pedals is kind of different than most of the others that I've tested. It just comes through on, yeah, I'm trying to find something to complain about. I can't. I guess that's what I'm trying to get to. And I don't like that too much because, I like to say something, right, that concerns me about them. Now, of course, I don't know about long-term durability, but who knows about anything when it comes to long-term durability. But based on the construction that these use and the materials they're using, that's the farthest thing in the back of my mind, worrying about something's going to break soon. And yeah, just a fantastic pedal set to use. They just feel good. And of course, having them, again, as I said before, having them mounted very securely and solidly is also paramount to get the maximum feel you can out of a pedal set. And these do that with their base plate, and of course attached the way I have them. But I'm just having a blast here. Once I actually tested these on another pedal tray that had some flex in it, and yeah, they didn't feel anything like they do now. And now they just I can feel like I'm really controlling the car with the pedals. And if you can do that, yeah, you're there. That's where we're trying to get anyway in simulation, right? So yeah, really having a great time enjoying these pedals and hammering them hard, and not even a squeak or anything out of them yet. So yeah, I really like what I'm feeling here. Final thoughts on the Pro Pedal GT from the guys at Simtrecs. From the moment you open the box, you know there has been a lot of thought by the designer as to what he wanted his pedal set to convey to the customer. Custom molded foam inserts that neatly lay out the components for the pedals and the pedals themselves. Once the pedals are out, you are greeted by careful attention to detail everywhere you look. It is evident that each pedal was designed for its intended purpose alone, with the only common part among them being the angle adjustment brackets mounted to the sides of the pedals. There are common elements to the pedals as far as function goes, like the hydraulic dampers, but still selected on a per pedal basis that best fits its own needs. This is one of the few pedal sets that you can buy today that have the electronics encased in metal to mitigate EMI RFI interference. You know, there are just way too many details for me to list here in the final thought segment as to the intricacies of each one of these pedals, and the reason this review is so long. There are plenty of adjustments available here to get the pedals to a desirable setting, including a good selection of brake tuning bumpers. Of course, there is Simtrecs in-house smart drive tuning software that will allow you to adjust the pedal's behavior to your own individual needs. I mounted the pedals to the optional but very solid feeling base plate that is available in 2 different widths. Of course, all of this is moot if they don't perform under some stress testing. I used some aggressive heel and toe shifting to put as much pressure as I could on the Pro Pedal GTs. At first, I tested on a pedal tray that had some flex in it because I was testing the GT Omega Prime cockpit at the time. But to let these pedals show you what they can really do, I installed a proper solid pedal tray from SimLab. It was then that I could see what they were truly capable of. They took hours of my heel and toe shifting without showing any signs of stress, as I was testing other sim racing hardware along with them. I was looking for something to really complain about, or not like here, but I just couldn't find anything. They just do a great job and feel very good underfoot. I was able to tune each pedal to meet my personal preference. As for the question of long-term durability, I can't really comment, but based on the build quality this set brings to the table, I would not be too worried about it. If you're in the market for a great performing and great looking high-end set of sim racing pedals, the Simtrecs Pro Pedal GT, along with this optional base plate, would be a great option for your consideration. I'm Barry Rowland. Thanks again for watching the Sim Racing Garage channel. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you would like to help support what I do here at the SRG, visit my website at simracinggarage.com.